No, that's very atmospheric.
Yeah, not bad lighting, hey?
It's like it looks
It's
a
like a
little
little
bit brothely.
porn, yeah. It looks way less brothely in the actual room, but yeah, I just set up the camera now. It's like, ugh. Looks
Yeah.
like I got like a little gimp mask in the corner.
It
You know
genuinely
how it
it's
is.
strange because you're in a black t-shirt. It looks a bit like your background's one of the Skype, like, step out of the camera, it takes a background and then it like puts you on a roller coaster. It kind of looks like you're not there.
Yeah, like the fake office
Yeah.
backdrops.
Yeah. I'm at work.
How weird was that as a phase? Like we'd have like actual Skype calls like for work, and then people would put on like a fake just room. Like they'd have
Yeah.
their actual room, but they'd put on a fake room for
But
their
did anyone
backdrop.
ever genuinely do that?
I did.
Oh, okay. So, but you did it as a bit. Or
No,
did you try and cover you were embarrassed by the backdrop? You felt like your room didn't live up to the expectations of a workplace.
it was more that I think it was more like a privacy thing. Like I don't want people that I work with to see
Right.
what my actual room looked like.
Yeah, a pigsty. A disgusting
Well,
hovel covered
no,
in
that's not
gimp
true.
masks.
Well, your boy keeps it tidy. I'm a
Sure.
tidy guy, but I just like a step further than I wanted to go with my colleagues. Like I don't want you to see, how what's in my room. I don't want you to see like the little bits of art or the big dildo sitting on the bed.
Yeah. Some things are off limits.
Some things are off limits, not
Yeah.
everything.
Um, cool t shirt.
Oh yeah, thanks. You like that?
Yeah. For the
It's what
viewers at
I
home.
just wearing a shirt that says comedy with
Yeah.
an exclamation mark.
It's a black
It's
t
actually
shirt. And then, ironically, not in Comic Sans, but there is a large white lettered caps lock comedy with an exclamation mark, which is, that's a flavor.
it's actually a merch from one of my favorite comedians, Mark Normand. He's one of the things that he says, is just like comedy. And so Lauren got me this for Christmas, actually.
Well, that's very cute. I assumed it was some
Yeah,
sort of like market purchase when you're out and about in Vietnam or something, and one of those like classic, oh, we don't really quite know what it is we put on this t-shirt, but it's out there if you want to buy it. But no, that was $55.
yeah. Well, funnily enough, it is weird because
Whoa. Whoa. Connection pending.
power just went out.
Like, can you make some noise?
And I will always love you. We'll always do it. Squeezing out of my butthole is a big brown turd. Hello.
So how is Cambodia?
So part of the fun about living in a developing country is that sometimes the power will just completely go out for a number of minutes, sometimes hours, and there'll be no explanation. But it's just business as usual.
This is
So
huge.
I apologize.
That's okay. It's a very succinct way to get a sense of where you are right now and how it's going.
Yeah. I think what I was saying, if I can just pick up where I left off, is there any point in picking that back up?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember what you were saying, so let's see
We
whether
were
it's interesting.
we were talking. It was not going to be interesting, but we were talking about my comedy shirt, and you were saying that you
Right.
assumed that I had picked it up in some sort of market Vietnam or somewhere. But it is interesting because people don't necessarily speak English here. Maybe the odd fella or fellow. What's the
Gal?
female version? Woman, will understand an English word, but like, so I feel like I could wear this shirt, and it's just like, oh, the guy's got like English on his shirt. They won't necessarily know what it was, but we actually
would you be self-conscious wearing that in like a out and about in Melbourne, say, because you feel like people would look at you and be like, "What a fucking wanker."
Okay, no, I wouldn't think that. It's actually a bit of a dog whistle to other Mark Norman fans.
Dog whistle is not the word you want to use if you want it to sound like a good thing.
Yeah, well, I couldn't think of another word. It's like a little
like a
inside
secret handshake,
joke.
an inside joke.
So I have worn this in Melbourne, and people have yelled out comedy because they're obviously Mark Norman fans. Yeah. But anyway, I'm in Cambodia right now, and we were going to the killing fields last week.
Oh my God.
And I put on my shorts, and my shirt, and my shoes, and went to go out the door. I was like, ready for the killing fields, baby. And Lauren said, maybe you want to change your shirt.
Don't take a selfie. Don't take a selfie on the Cambodian killing fields in your comedy t-shirt.
Well, she put it to me, and she made a pretty good case for not wearing a shirt that says comedy at a place that is known for one of the biggest genocides in history.
Yeah.
So that was one of the few things that I took her advice on.
Yeah. See, this is why Lauren is worth keeping around, because she stops you from embarrassing yourself on international atrocity sites. So good to her.
Exactly. What would I do without her?
Yeah. Otherwise, how's life? Good?
Yeah, man, life's good. Apart from power cuts and all that jazz, life is pretty good, Yeah. 32 degrees.
Americano.
Iced Americano. It's great. Coffee in Southeast Asia is just the best. It's what I want in a coffee. I just like an iced. I'll have an iced Americano all through the year. In Australia, in June, coldest month, iced Americano. Don't worry about it. I want a cold coffee. I don't like hot coffee.
Wow.
And in Southeast Asia, wow. Shut up, Nick. Shut the fuck up.
That was mostly like a sincere reaction. I wasn't consciously thinking it. I wasn't consciously like nagging you. That was just the voice and the words that came out of my mouth.
It wasn't a wow moment. We all knew it. It's just fucking shit. Just fucking bullshit.
Oh, welcome to Deep Fort, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this week, this month, this year, and this life. When you could be doing so many other things, your time is precious, and we appreciate it. Sitting through the internet with me, my friend Michael. Hello.
Sorry. Coffee's kicked in.
And I'm Nick. Thank you so much. What a pleasure. It feels like it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you.
I did. So you're going to a plant show or something? You said you got a heart out. You got to go see some plants or something.
We were going to, and then Casey had a look at the photos of yesterday and looked at all of them and said they were like basic bitch plants. And he was like, imagine being caught dead at that place. And so we decided not to go.
What's a basic bitch plant?
Oh, I don't know. Probably some like generic Hoya
like a
or something.
Monstera?
He'd be like, oh, these people are paying hundreds of dollars for a single front. Like, what idiots. And I said, that sounds like a classic KC good time, going into a room and feeling superior to everyone around you. That's what he loves. That's what he lives for. But no, we didn't end up going. So it's just a dog walk and then a dinner tonight.
Okay. Did you ever get into Venus flytraps? Because that to me is like the opposite of a basic bitch plant. It's like it's a plant that has
Pinnacle
like an
plant.
attitude.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I feel like as a kid when I was like 12, like I was given one or something like that, and I don't know that they really like, they don't eat that many flies right? Like they don't need feeding like every day you put a fly in the pot or something like that. So my life was just spent looking at this thing and willing that it would be the moment that it would
Yeah.
be hungry and a fly would just happen to fly past and you'd be able to see it with your own eyes that it like catches a fly. And I think that it was inevitably disappointment.
Yeah, I had the same experience, but you got to take matters into your own hands. If you, grab a toothpick and find a fly and pick off its wings and then, stab it with the toothpick and then feed it to the plant. Yeah, that can be interesting.
Are you speaking from experience?
No, I just imagine that you could do that.
I think that they're picky. I don't think they want to be fed. I think they want the satisfaction of a kill, Like, I think they're kind of little psychos.
They are. They're definitely the most psychotic plant. Like, and manipulative as well.
Yeah, like a real red flag.
Real red flag. Like, pretending to be, like, a good guy,
Yeah, and then actually
Hey,
a
come to
carnivore.
my house.
What
I've
are you
got
doing?
cool
Wolf in sheep's
stuff,
clothing.
and then eating you. Yeah. No good. No
Also,
good. Cancel
the corpse
Venus
flower,
flytraps.
the one that stinks like death. What's that about?
Oh,
You know,
that's smelly. Yeah, no.
Rafflesia.
Don't plants and all flora need to be. They have a reputation for being well smelling.
They have a reputation for being well smelling.
That you can write.
Put it
that
on
down.
a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt. There's part of the. Part of the. It's part of the vernacular, Nick. Like it's you go out and smell the roses.
Yeah.
And if you're a flower that don't smell good, like what's the point?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Get out of here.
Speaking of psychotic, manipulative things,
Flowers.
Russell Brand thing just broke this morning, and I'm titillated. That's probably a bad word to use. No pun intended.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I'm hugely surprised. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like his vibe has been, speaking of red flags, for like 15 years.
Totally. Like the sex addict, reformed drug addict person. But then he does have a messiah complex. I think he's got one of his specials is called Messiah Complex or something. And he's got this, like, he thinks of himself as a messiah, even if he jokes about it. He dresses like Jesus. He preaches like guru meditation.
Yeah.
He's got a cult. He's definitely got all the red flags for being like a predator. So
Yeah.
I guess that's it's one of the things that's like no one is surprised by this at all.
You could see him as like a cult leader type, right? Like in a different era in the 70s or whatever, he's out in his commune, like free sex and free belief and everything, and like just a posse of people around him. Very easily slips into that stereotype, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I haven't seen I think it's like Channel 4 has done like released a documentary.
Yeah, Sunday Times
like
and Channel 4, I think, teamed up or something.
Yeah. And that was released like basically a couple of hours ago, like UK time. And even so, Russell Brand released this or put out this this statement on his channel yesterday morning in anticipation of the documentary coming out, saying, you're going to hear some really nasty things about me, but they're all false and all that. And it's really interesting seeing like all of his followers. And look, I've dabbled in Brand, he'll come up as a recommended video occasionally on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
But it is interesting to see all of these people coming out and saying, before they've seen the documentary, hey, we stand with you, mate. Don't worry. They're kind of, this is the mainstream media can't handle the truth that you're giving them, and that's definitely like the kind of the pitch that he's making to his base is that this is an attempt to silence me because I am speaking truth to power and I'm giving you the news that the mainstream media won't give you, which is just kind of like it's a wild and almost a narcissistic defense or like preemptive defense,
Yeah.
saying that you are trying to silence me by way of using like allegations of sexual misconduct.
It's a little bit
bizarre to me.
Trumpian. Like, it's very Trump playbook,
Totally.
right? Of like, get out there and put a different message out very strongly and assume the followers have been taught enough mistrust about the other media sources that you can get away with stating it because you only speak truth and thus discount the other platform. So interesting to see him in that sort of playbook, because I think he has definitely drifted right. And the most I hadn't closely followed him. I thought he'd had like funny stuff like early 2010s and that sort of thing, which sadly is when a lot of these allegations come from. But like, he had his moments in movies and things. And then I remember having to recalibrate my perception of him when he came out with that "don't vote" bullshit, when he was talking about how the democracy of the UK is fucked, which it is, undeniably, but that the solution to it was not to participate, which I think is just a hideous message. And that really made me think, like, wow, if he's going out there and telling people who could actually swing a difference if they, were rallying behind a cause and took control of the UK government, or parliament, I should say, and instead you're like poisoning them against the idea of any participatory democracy, then that's a real like toxic kind of red flag. That really made me distrust or dislike him.
Yeah, he's kind of an interesting character in a way, because you think of him initially in those early years when we probably discovered him.
It was like forgetting Sarah Marshall, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and the Ricky Gervais kind of heyday and all that. And then his politics have always been kind of front and center of his act. But then he's had that documentary about like he was pretty involved in the Occupy Wall Street, all that kind of very left, what you'd think is typically left leaning stuff. But this is what is interesting about the political landscape now, is that you're seeing all these guys who typically or historically were left leaning. Yeah, and I'd include Bill Maher in that, and Sam Harris to a degree, and Russell Brand, where because the political landscape is kind of being stretched out, and you're kind of being forced to take more of an extreme position either way, or to plant your flag. Are you in the red camp or are you the blue camp? And then the messages for both of those teams are kind of being stretched apart to more extremities, that it seems like these guys who are essentially, I would say, centrist now, are seeming more right of center. Does that make sense? And I think Russell Brand is definitely, some of his videos, the vaccine stuff, it's a conspiracy podcast at this point that he has. But in his head,
he's really not that different from like an Alex Jones, right?
No, totally.
Or a Rush Limbaugh, or some of those classic kind of conspiratorial, like right-leaning thinkers. But the difference is, and why it's been a little bit deceptive, or perhaps a little easy to overlook for a while, is the social differences. Like, he's still socially left-leaning. Like, that you don't see them railing against like gay people or against, like black people or that kind of thing. So it's easier to maybe overlook the ideological differences there a little bit, when so much of the left's bugbears are against a conservative right that wants to, prevent abortions and legalize gay marriage and that kind of stuff. So it's easy to sort of look over their heads, if you like, at the real enemy and miss that switch. But you're right that there is a center there, and it's interesting because it's almost like, do you know the concept of the Overton window? Does that mean anything to you?
No.
The Overton window, maybe I'll just bring up an actual definition for it, because that would be a helpful
bring it up.
thing. So the Overton window is the range of policies politically acceptable to the mainstream population at any given time. It's also known as the window of discourse. It's named after a policy analyst, Joseph Overton, who stated that an idea's political viability depends mainly on whether it falls within this range rather than on a politician's individual preferences. The window frames the range of policies that a politician can recommend without appearing too extreme to gain or keep public office given the climate of public opinion at the time. So when people are talking about policies and culture shifting, they're talking about a shifting of the Overton window, i.e., when you're talking about this like pulling of the extremes, we're talking about what's becoming acceptable for a left-leaning or a right-leaning politician or voter to talk about is moving away from each other. And so if you're a right-leaning voter now, say in the US, you're much more likely or safely able to talk about like storming the Capitol and have that be acceptable within your leaning spheres. And on the left, you're much more capable of talking about like universal basic income and sort of these things that would have been feared as like communist kind of concepts or that kind of thing, because those safe windows of what is considered reasonable now have shifted over time. And this is a natural part of like an evolving society. But I think what you're talking now is there's people for whom some of those ideas are perceived as too far still, find themselves now in a center away from both sides of the spectrum. And so with the acceptable window now further away from each other on both sides of the spectrum, left and right, there's also now further gaps between a centrist and each of those positions too. So it feels like that middle ground now is more distinct and more distasteful to either end of the political spectrum.
That's very interesting. I think these guys who identify as centrist, and they're, to be honest, like they're guys that I follow probably more than people on either side of the political spectrum, market themselves as people who will think for themselves on every individual issue and not toe the company line. And so they kind of market themselves as people who are separate from that. But I do sometimes wonder if that in itself is its own like credence, or it's its own motto, and that also kind of lends itself to being anti the status quo. Like it's almost taking a provocative stance on any particular issue.
Isn't centrism more closely aligned with the status quo than anything else? Or do you think a centrist of this style perceives themselves as more intellectual or more...
No, I don't think it's about intellectualism. I think it's about not having a okay, we're on the right, so we believe that there should be no restrictions on gun control, whatever, and we're on the left, and we believe that men can become women, and blah blah blah. Yeah. And I think centrism is kind of the idea that you like, well, I believe this about, I believe that we shouldn't have strict gun laws, but also I believe in abortion, for the woman's right to choose. I think that's what a centrist would identify as.
So a willingness to see the positive sides of both arguments and choose the one that they align with. Is that what you're saying? An openness to both sides?
I think it's more, and I've been thinking about this word a lot lately and what it means, but I think it's taking a more rational approach. Now, I'm not saying when I say that all centrists or people who identify as centrists are rational. I think the word rational is a tricky one, because you can think that you're being rational on a particular issue, but society might move, and then your rationality, your rational argument goes out the window. I always thought of myself as someone who had prided themselves on being rational, especially after getting into Richard Dawkins and Hitchens and Sam Harris and all these guys. These are rational thinkers, quote unquote. And I looked up to that. I thought that was a good way of. I think it was
particularly coming
saw
out
that,
of a religious upbringing as well.
Yeah, I saw a lot of value in rational thinking, but the older I get, I wonder if I question how much emphasis one person should put on rationality, and if it is a virtue at all.
Well, it has to be a virtue in some.
I don't know.
It has to be a virtue in some aspects, right? I mean, this is what I was getting at in terms of like perceived intellectualism, where it's like I think there would be a sense if you asked someone in this group whether it is better to have thought through a topic with rationality or to go by like a gut instinct or a party line. I think that they would say, "Oh, it's absolutely better to have like done the thinking on this and thus position themselves as more intellectually rigorous than perhaps just a blind adherent of either of the major things." That's what I was sort of touching on there.
Sure, totally.
Sorry,
but I think weirdly enough, I think that rationality can be subjective, and I think take the trans issue for an example. You could rationalize that biologically born men can't become women. But you could also rationalize on the other side of the argument. You could rationalize that people suffer from body dysphoria, and we should accept them as a society for what they identify as.
Yeah.
Like so, you could rationalize.
I think you're
both
100%
sides
right.
of that
Rationality as a human is still subjective, right? Like there's computer rationality, like mathematical rationality. But we don't live in a world that just boils down to numbers or to like hard data for 99% of the things that we're thinking about. So it's always going to be based on some degree of subjectivity, right? Yeah. And I think that there is, as I was going to say, there's definitely times when rationality should prove the better or like an important guiding light for certain decision making, like we should expend all of our resources as a government to prevent the uprise of zombies and invest in huge bunkers and like barbed wire fences just in case that happens because we want to be prepared. And then a rational argument would say, well, there's no chance that's going to happen, so let's not invest billions of dollars into the zombie outbreak when we've got other issues to deal with. Like rationality should be applied to decision making. But then, as we talked about, there's a subjectivity there where eventually you end up in places that have perfectly valid arguments from both sides, and it's ultimately a democratic decision or an individual decision that comes down to morality. You end up if you're trying to do rational decision making, well, then you end up at trolley problems, which there are. Utilitarian arguments, which is pretty closely aligned with rational arguments, if you think of it that way. But then it very quickly becomes messy, and there's no clear answers to a whole bunch of this shit. So you end up trying to work out what morality you believe in order to justify your rationality. You end up in philosophy deep dives.
Yeah, so it's so messy. I wonder what's going to happen with like politics and everything. Like, it's just how could you possibly guess? What's going to happen in terms of like social politics.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I mean, even if you look back like 6 years, the amount that the world has changed is crazy.
It is crazy. It's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane. But yeah. Old Rusty Rockets. He's
Rusty. I mean, Rockets. Was that his Twitter? Is that what he was?
I think it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't know. I haven't even seen the documentary. These are allegations.
Yeah.
But it feels true. And if we learned anything, Nick.
Yeah.
If it feels true, it probably is true.
Go with your gut. Yeah, I read the BBC article. I didn't realize there was like an hour-long doco. Is that what you're saying? I'll have to have a
it's called Channel 4's Dispatches. Okay. It's like a
60 minutes sort of.
Yeah, maybe like a Four Corners.
Gotcha. Yeah. It feels like there's a non-stop parade of some of these, big names being found out recently.
Who else?
Well, I mean, I'm not equivocating the two, but Jimmy Fallon just had a brand hit this past week
Yeah.
where it turned out he was like a very, well, according to the articles and people interviewed at least, volatile perhaps, or changeable kind of personality running his show behind the scenes, and particularly moody or aggressive.
This one as well as the Ellen one. It's like I find it kind of interesting because it's like part of me just expects, and maybe we shouldn't expect this or tolerate bad behavior, but like it's a high pressure environment. They're putting out a show a week. Like I would expect some sort of volatility from the guy at the center of that. But I think we've known that. I think it's also part like with the Ellen thing. It's like when people have this public persona
Yeah.
that's very, very nice and positive and bubbly and blah blah blah, and then behind the scenes, it's like people see this Jekyll and Hyde thing, and they're like, "Ooh, okay."
Yeah.
Like
The
if you were who's kind of got more of a. I was going to bring up Bill O'Reilly, who's someone who had like a known temper, and he wore it on his sleeve on his show. But I guess that's not a great example either.
No. You mean okay,
Maybe David Letterman. Like if David Letterman,
a little bit grouchier, yeah.
yeah. Like but he's well, I guess he had his own
Various
problems
scandals
in
over the
with
years.
affairs, But I guess Conan really, I was interested in the Conan resurfacing. A lot of people were post this, or in the aftermath of this Jimmy Fallon Rolling Stone article. Conan was trending on Twitter because people were like, well, just a reminder that, you don't have to be a prick. And, people pointing at Conan, the loyalty that Conan's staff had to him
Yeah.
for an extended number of years.
Yeah. I mean, his persona is interesting because he's what, Conan. He's what, almost 60 now or something like that. And there are jokes that he cracks that I don't think a younger host or performer would go for. But he does.
Do you mean it in terms of like references? Or?
No, well, his brand, he does bring up like the war and like ancient presidential like history and stuff a lot, which is his brand. That's funny.
Or like Lucille Ball.
Yeah, like
he's
just strange like 1920s like film references and things. But no, I mean like he will slightly crack like sexualized jokes about his reaction to like a hot actress or something like that, and he goes there and it's very self-deprecating, and it's invariably he makes himself the butt of the joke, but he goes there in a way that I don't think you'd ever see like a Seth Meyers talk about like how like hot Scarlett Johansson is or whatever, when they come on the show. And so there you can see generational changes there, but you're right that Conan has an almost fanatically loyal staff that have seen very little turnover over a very long time. And do you remember there was like one woman who complained about being fired or something weird, maybe like 10 years ago, and when that vaguely came out, like every other woman on staff or whatever came out and said like, this is not Conan, this woman was not treated in this way or whatever. So as you say, there are definitely ways to be a good person and still deal with the pressures of daily TV for decades.
And Jimmy Fallon's long been rumored to have like a drinking problem, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, that was included in this article as well. Like his mood seemed to be dependent on how hungover he was from the night before. That's what they say in this article.
That makes him more likable, I think.
Does it?
Yeah.
Why are you drinking yourself to like a stupor every night when you're like a multimillionaire?
I just would love to see, Jimmy Fallon just like the idea of like a troubled, lonesome Jimmy Fallon drinking by himself in his multi-million dollar mansion is like, I'm like, what? Like that doesn't. I can't picture it, but I would love to see it. Maybe I'll get
I feel
AI
like
to
I know
generate
what
it.
he'd be like drunk. He already slurs most of his words anyway. Like I feel like I can picture it.
Yeah, I know. It is pretty weird that. Like, do you remember when Jimmy Fallon first came on air? And I remember watching the first 2 episodes when it was on
You
free
mean
to
Late
air,
Show?
like Channel 10, Late Show, yeah.
Late night.
And I remember just thinking, like the 3rd episode, I was like, "This is not going to last." Like he is so out of his depth, and I don't know how Lord Michaels picked it.
I mean, he did see something. I mean, like there was an era there, whenever it was, like early 2010s, I guess. How long has he been doing it? No, it must be longer. Late 20.
Wait, who did he take over from? He didn't take over from Letterman, did he? No, that was Colbert.
Oh, I forget.
Oh,
it was because it was
Craig
when the
Ferguson?
Leno shit was going down, right?
Yeah. Who
I
knows?
can't remember.
What
Because
were you gonna
I think it was Conan was in Late Night, and then Leno was Tonight Show. Then Leno left and Conan got the gig. And I think that's when Jimmy started Late Night. Then Leno came back and fucked over Conan, who left.
Yeah. And then Letterman left soon after.
And then Fallon took over. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway.
It was Leno.
Yeah, it was sometime around all the Leno kerfuffles. But yeah, when whatever that era was, when he came on the scene and he started doing these games, it was like people really genuinely responded to it. Like it was fun to see celebrities doing things. It was sort of in the rise of YouTube era as well, where like seeing celebrities as not just like being asked standard questions, but like doing silly things or being up for a game and that sort of thing was a genuinely good pivot, and they saw success for it. So I don't know whether Lorne had anticipated that kind of change coming and put someone in it who suited it. But I could imagine hosting a show like that and doing that kind of like never getting deep with anyone you ever speak to, or never like having real conversations because you always like have your head in a box. I could imagine that gets a little bit like wearying over 15 years.
Yeah, I mean this kind of reduction of celebrity is interesting in itself as like a social gimmick. Like Jimmy Fallon is such a far cry from like Johnny Carson, who's like this sophisticated man. Jimmy Fallon is a boy, doing silly little games and like carpool karaoke. I know that's what's his name, fuckface, Corden. But I just really don't understand why any celebrity would do like a lip sync battle or carpool karaoke. Like, you just look like a goon.
Yeah, I guess it was.
But I guess it represents the society that we live in.
I'll be very curious. Stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's the job that he wants, but because it feels like they're the same age or similar age. But if Fallon left and Seth Meyers took over the Tonight Show, I don't think that it would be games and goofs. Like, do you know? Yeah. I think whoever next gets that gig, that the tone of that show will change again.
Well, surely they need to have either a person of color or a woman. Like, they can't just keep having white men. And I'm not like, I love how I have to like caveat the things that I say. I'm like, well, I'm not saying some worky shit. But like in today's day and age, how could a studio go for another straight white man? Or is that what America actually wants?
Well, I think the bigger question
are they ready for a woman?
I mean, late night as a linear TV block, no one's actually watching at 12:37 Seth Meyers come onto their TV screen, right? It's all built now for the next day viewing on the YouTube. And so it'll be very interesting to see whether that, and international viewing, not even not
Yeah.
even just specifically to the US. So I think you're right. It'll be very interesting to see whether that market, if they're going to try and retain any linear TV at all, like try and market for the people actually watching it at 12:30 a.m., or whether you do lean into something younger and fresher and, cast someone, outside of that white James demographic that seems to have had us control over it all.
Yeah, it's weird that the late nights are basically just like clip generators. They're just like the sum of their clips at this point.
Yeah.
Like, who is watching those shows? I mean, I used to watch Letterman when I first got a TV in my room at like, I think it was like 14. I saved up and bought myself a TV, like it must have been like a 15-inch TV,
yeah.
but it was like 30 inches at the back, with one of those
CRT,
ones. It had like a huge, and convinced my parents to let me have it in my room, which was
Did it have a
probably
built-in
terrible
VHS
decision.
player?
No, I got my own.
Okay.
But I would watch Letterman, every night, and it was like I would watch the whole program, but I cannot imagine anyone really watching that now. Like I don't even know where to get them. Like you just you watch an interview if there's someone that you like, or if there's I don't know, someone's issuing an apology for something that's come out in the papers.
It's interesting. I just saw overnight. Do you ever watch Taskmaster? Have you ever dabbled in the old TM?
Every now with Greg Davies.
Yeah.
Every now and then.
Yeah, I love that show. It's got like the UK stuff is classic. Taskmaster New Zealand is actually surprisingly good, and you'll see a lot of international fans of the New Zealand version because it's absolute chaos in the most wonderful way. But I just saw today that they announced the next series of the British one is going full episodes straight up on YouTube the next day for American and other audiences. So that they must have not found a distribution partner in the US, or maybe not one that wanted to pay the money they wanted or something like that. And it's got a huge YouTube presence already. Like they put out a lot of clips for it. And they've now just decided, well, fuck it, 45-minute episodes just going up live the next day for the rest of the world after it airs.
Wow.
We're in a very different era now. That's a linear TV British show that is now a YouTube show as well. That's pretty wild. So to wrap my thought up, I wonder how long it is before NBC just decides, well, here's the 45-minute episode of The Tonight Show. For everyone outside of the US, you can just watch it now. You can watch the whole thing if you wanted to watch it like you watch YouTube.
Well, if the thing is like getting ad revenue, I'm sure they could monetize it in a way that, keeps the sponsors happy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're living in changing times. What are we talking about this week, Michael? We're 45 minutes in.
Fucked if I know, Nick. Fucked if I know.
How do you feel about some science news? I think you can do better than that. How do we feel about some science news? Thank you very much. Play the jingle.
It's that time. Time for science news.
Okay, old article here, but a good one. Cancer and heart disease vaccines, quote, ready by the end of the decade. The pharmaceutical firm says groundbreaking jabs. I am rapping. Groundbreaking jabs could save millions of lives. Millions of lives could be saved by a groundbreaking set of new vaccines for a range of conditions, including cancer, experts have said. A leading pharmaceutical firm says it's confident that jabs for cancer, cardiovascular and autoimmune diseases, and other conditions will be ready by 2030. Studies into these vaccinations are also showing tremendous promise, with some researchers saying 15 years worth of progress has been unspooled in 12 to 18 months thanks to the success of the COVID jab. Dr. Paul Burton, the Chief Medical Officer of Moderna, says he believes the firm will be able to offer such treatments for all sorts of disease areas in as little as 5 years. We will have that vaccine and it will be highly effective and it will save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives. I think we'll be able to offer personalized cancer vaccines against multiple different tumor types to people around the world. Burden said, I think we'll have mRNA-based therapies for rare diseases that were previously undruggable, and I think that 10 years from now, we'll be approaching a world where you can truly identify the genetic cause of a disease and with relative simplicity go and edit that out and repair it using mRNA-based technology.
Wow.
So I won't go on too much further, but I do want to read just one more part of this technicality thing because I think it's interesting. So the mRNA molecule instructs cells to make proteins. By injecting a synthetic form, cells can pump out proteins we want our immune system to strike. An mRNA-based cancer vaccine would alert the immune system to a cancer that's already growing in a patient's body so it can attack and destroy it without destroying healthy cells. First, doctors take a biopsy of a patient's tumor and send it to a lab where its genetic material is sequenced to identify mutations that aren't present in healthy cells. A machine learning algorithm then identifies which of these mutations are responsible for driving the cancer's growth. Over time, it learns which parts of the abnormal proteins are most likely to trigger an immune response, and then mRNAs for the most promising antigens are manufactured and packaged into a personalized vaccine. So, it looks like one of the silver linings of this COVID vaccine acceleration is that this technology can now be applied to many other different areas. And we might be entering this kind of personalized golden age where if you get found with a tumor, they can scrape it, sort it out in a lab, work out the thing that you need personally to undo it, and then inject it into your body so that your body can defeat it. Isn't that amazing?
Well, it's first of all, a couple of things. Great for me because I've just taken up smoking again.
Oh, no. Michael!
Well, vaping's illegal, so I have to do something. So this is great news. Second of all I could hear throughout that reading was just the cries of the unborn conspiracy theorists saying this is what they're going to give you a personalized vaccine to control you. And, maybe they've got a point. Now, this is great news, obviously, but, we're already suffering from a housing crisis due to overpopulation all over the world. Like, if we, I know I'm just focusing on the negatives here of this like
You do
miraculous scientific discovery.
It's also disconcerting in your big comedy t-shirt, but yes, continue.
That, if what are the implications of like if we take care of cancer, what is that going to do to the population? The ripple effects are going to be insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's an immediate worry because I'm sure the cost of this kind of procedure for a long time is going to be very prohibitive to all but the richest Western nations. I think the other interesting thing there is, Michael, I'm pretty sure birth rates are declining just about everywhere, right? Like maybe the solution for this is going to be the fucking sperm count zero, which we talked about recently, or a year or two ago, where we just no longer capable of actually having kids anymore, or not at the numbers that people want anymore. And so
apparently millennials and Gen Z are having less sex than ever in history. So maybe we're subconsciously just taking care of it.
Yeah, I mean, the system works. Are you having less sex in any time in history?
I'm not going to answer that, Nick. Lauren is off the balcony. There is nothing I could say would be an appropriate answer there. So I plead the fifth.
Well done. You've grown as a person. Yeah,
I'm shaking.
That was a trap. Oh, very good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much there is to talk about these vaccines, but
I mean, it's just I feel like people have been saying that there's going to be a COVID,
Cancer.
cancer treatment for a long time. It's like it's the white whale. It's the one that everyone wants.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing to see. I guess you would see if you were a betting man, you'd probably bet that cancer would be cured at least in our lifetime.
I mean,
Within 10 years, it'd be wild.
The age-old correction to that has been there is no such thing as a cure for cancer because every cancer is different and operates differently. So for a long time, the medical pushback has been like, there's not just one. You can't just have one answer. Well, wouldn't it be interesting if what the one answer was a technology and a process of identifying this tumor has this protein that operates in this way, and then feed it into the computer and find the machine learning, model which gives you the best chance of an antigen. That seems to me like they are actually talking about a universal process there. Like that maybe there's not one jab that stops all cancers, but that a procedure or a technique is actually more applicable to more cancers than we expected. I find that kind of ironic.
Yeah. Don't listen to your doctor, Nick Shaker.
That's what I said.
Yeah, but I guess what was I going to say? I guess identifying the cancer is half the battle. I'm not a medical guy, but like I guess that's a big part of it. It's like even just identifying what cancer you have and getting it earlier on.
So that reminds me, this is an old article. This is 2 years old, so there may be updates subsequent to it. But I've had it in my list for ages, talking exactly about this thing. It's a Guardian article. It's entitled "Blood Test That Finds 50 Types of Cancer is Accurate Enough to Be Rolled Out." So there's a diagnostic tool piloted by the NHS which shows impressive results in spotting tumours in early stages. A simple blood test that can detect more than 50 types of cancer before any clinical signs or symptoms of the disease emerge in a person is accurate enough to be rolled out as a screening test, according to scientists. It's being piloted by the NHS and aimed at people with high risk of the disease, including patients aged 50 and older. It is able to identify many types of disease that are difficult to diagnose in the early stages, such as head and neck, ovarian, pancreatic, esophageal, and some blood cancers. Scientists said that the test accurately detects cancer often before any signs or symptoms appear while having a very low false positive rate. The Guardian first reported on the test last year and how it had been developed using a machine learning algorithm, a type of artificial intelligence. It works by examining the DNA that's shed by tumours and found circulating in the blood. More specifically, it focuses on chemical changes to this DNA known as methylation patterns. So that plays on what we were talking about earlier in terms of the early onset and the screening test being so much better these days. But I find the interesting commonality here as well is in the machine learning side of it. Like we're applying now these sort of neural networks and very advanced computing processes to our medicine and our diagnoses and letting them do the pattern recognition, not letting just the doctor look at the tests and decide, is that or is that not likely to be the thing, but applying it to huge data sets and comparisons beyond what humans themselves are capable of doing and seeing some really impressive results.
Yeah, I think I honestly would, if a diagnosis is informed by at least pattern recognition, I want a computer, 99 times out of 100 over a doctor, a human doctor.
Yeah.
We're so scared about, the robots taking over and, what are we going to do? If they turn against us, a robot might actually save your life.
It's really true.
How about that?
Yeah. Way to really, that's very centrist of you.
Thank you. I have no team.
Yeah. Look, I don't know that we have much more to discuss there, but we're in an interesting era now, and it's cool to see medicine progressing alongside technology, and hopefully it means better and longer lives for all of us.
A win for science and a win for all of mankind.
Oh, that's very well said.
You like that?
Yeah,
pretty
beautiful.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah. If you've enjoyed this podcast, well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for participating in the enjoyment. I've certainly enjoyed it, so that's 2 for 2 as far as I'm concerned. There's plenty more episodes in the feed there if you want to keep this good fun going. Pick out another episode, and then while you're doing that, rate us on iTunes or Apple Music or Spotify, or send us an email to deepthought@gmail.com. Find us on social media, flick a message, let us know what you're up to, and we'll be sure to consider that next time we speak.
Deep Thought OnlyFans. Is that a good idea?
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is. What's the market?
Okay, put it. Well, you sent me a photo. You sent me a photo. You sent me a message. I sent you a photo of my feet the other day at the pool, and you suggested that
say don't give it away
could
for
turn
free.
that into some passive income. I mean, maybe we just post photos of our feet.
Maybe that's all we needed to really push this podcast to the next level.
Just at least to get at least enough money to pay for the domain name. The hosting.
The hosting
from
fees
Podbean.
every year. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That'd
just be nice.
Never turned a profit, this podcast, I should say.
Yeah, every meeting that we have around the end of June, Nick, our accounting.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Nick, we'll
Still in the red.
straight again. Still in the red, Michael. Yes.
Yeah, and yet we persist.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I got one thing to bring up here, and I need an outsider's opinion. You got a second?
Yeah. Am I an outsider?
Yeah, an outsider from my head.
Okay. So cute.
So picture this. You're at home, you're minding your business. Let's say you're listening to Deep Thought on the couch, having a bourbon, and not wearing any clothes. This is hypothetical. It's not really relevant to the story at hand, but just to paint a picture.
Wow. All right.
Then you hear the garden gate open, the front of your house. Someone's come to visit. It's a door knock situation. And it's maybe 3:00 in the afternoon. You got a feeling this is a salesman of some type. You're not expecting a package. You're not expecting a friend. Someone here is to make you an offer.
Well, it really sounds like the sound of a porno right now, doesn't it?
And then you hear the footsteps up to the door, and this is what happens.
Aha.
Am I wrong in thinking that is a very intrusive knock? Is that too friendly for a salesman to come up, cold call, and try and pitch you something? Because I felt a little bit taken aback by the joviality of a comedy knock,
Totally. It's too familiar. It's the equivalent of someone just meeting you and going, "Hey, can I call you Nico? Nico, how you going?"
That's exactly what it is.
It is. It's like, no, this is for my friends can do that.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. You don't know me. Also, what are they selling?
It was a KiwiSaver thing, like a financial plan, effectively.
Ugh. Well, they're just trying to spice up their day because their life sucks, obviously.
Because they have to door knock 1,000 times a day, and you've got to the point where that gesture is the only part of joy that you have in a tedious and unsuccessful job.
It's their only creative outlet of the job.
Okay, now have a stab here at demographics. Who do you think was behind that door when I opened it?
Okay, so I think my hunch is that it's a little bit too. Sorry, was it a?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that to me tells me that it's an older person because that's an old school rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
been around forever. Yeah,
it's been around forever. I don't see anyone in Gen Z doing a but. It's almost like Looney Tunes. I think it's probably got its origins in Looney Tunes. So I think we're talking someone in there. I would say age range 50 to 48 to 58.
All right, you ready? Hold on to your socks.
Yep.
31.
Get
31. I mean, I didn't ask him his age.
What are you doing?
But this is a guy who looked a little bit younger than I did. White guy.
Yeah.
Fit, young, healthy.
Okay.
Should know better is my point. Like he's out there in the world. He knows what the associations that you bring to a knock of that sort of, looseness. And I was I think I was as taken aback by the fact that the sound happened as by who performed it.
I don't want to read too much into this. Actually, I actually do. I actually do want to read too much into this. I think that's the point, isn't it?
I think it probably is.
This guy, for the little that I know about him, being exactly 31 years old, definitely fit, young, healthy,
Yeah,
and
shirtless.
with a bit of a
Rippling bud.
bit of an extroverted.
Massive
personality.
extrovert energy.
He seems like the type of guy that I would definitely avoid at a party. He's the type of guy that will happily play an acoustic guitar at a gathering and not have any shame about it. He wants the spotlight.
He does.
He thinks he's special.
He does strike me as a bring a guitar to a house party kind of person. But let me wrap this story up and see whether I can change your opinion of him with this one last factoid. So he said, I don't know if you've thought much about your KiwiSaver, which is a superannuation effectively for New Zealand. And I said, and it is something that I could really get into and that I have lived and worked here for many years. It is an option available to me. But I said, well, I'm Australian, so I don't, And he looked at me and he said, absolutely no worries. Have a good one, mate. And turned around and walked off. No hard sell, no follow-up, no push. Now what do you think about him?
Well, obviously like that, but it just kind of confirms what I think. And that is that he doesn't like doing his job. Yeah. He thinks he's special. He thinks he should be an actor. He thinks he should be a stand-up comedian or a podcaster.
He probably had an audition to get to, and he was just trying to tick off as many houses as he could before he, hid in the car, went down to the studio and put down a tape.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about the job. He's not going to push it. It fits with what I know about him.
Okay.
But it doesn't make me like him less or more. I just think he's kind of a scumbag. Yeah.
It doesn't make me think any less of him. He's just a scumbag.
I already knew he was a scumbag.
Well, I appreciate that. I was getting in my head about it. I wasn't sure whether my reaction was valid or not.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
Throughout this conversation that you had with him about your KiwiSaver, were you still naked and holding the glass of bourbon?
Yeah, but I was holding it across my crotch, so it was tasteful.
Okay, and you had one headphone in.
I was still keeping the podcast playing. Obviously, the metrics are really quite important for us. So yeah, I wouldn't have paused.
Yeah. All right, cool. I just wanted to get that full picture.
Yeah. This was a hypothetical. Yeah. Just because I can explicitly describe all of the ways, and things that were happening doesn't mean that that did happen.
Yeah. And what time of day was this?
It was 3:00.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, 3 p.m. Yeah.
Getting started on the bourbon's a bit early, but
yeah, it was a busy Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
Hey, I got a quick little segment idea to end this with.
Yeah. You're full of ideas.
I had this. Well, this is the one I had pending from last week, and I decided to box it.
Yep.
But doesn't have a jingle yet. Maybe if it comes back again, we can consider it. Mm-hmm. But here's my question. Here's the name of it, and I think you'll get the question straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrity groomsman. Okay. Michael, you're getting married. Congratulations. Yeah. None of your friends are available, but you have a Rolodex of Hollywood's hottest names. Who's your celebrity picks for groomsmen? Who are you getting there to show you a good bucks weekend and a great wedding?
Now, can I take a more of a 2023 approach to this and include women as well? Because
no,
okay, it has to be men.
I think that for this purpose, I think celebrity groomsmen is its own segment. And then we can do celebrity bridesmaids in a future segment.
Okay. Well, I've got two right off the bat.
Okay, I knew you would. I knew that this is one that you would be able to respond instantly with.
Yeah. And I think they might surprise you.
Okay.
or maybe not.
Russell Brand.
But yeah, or Rusty Rockets.
Yeah.
These two are a pair.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
it's Vince Vaughn
Right.
and I can't decide out of Jon Favreau or Owen Wilson.
Well, I think that you have
Owen-
three. I think you have three groomsmen. Is what I'm.
Okay.
I think your party is three. So
Okay.
unquestionably, Vince is in the mix.
Vince Vaughn's in. Vince Vaughn. He's so fun.
So before
He's
we
gonna
get to
be-
part
he's gonna
two,
be
yeah,
talking to the.
tell me why.
But he's just like he's pure charm. I know he's a bit of a a bit problematic. Like nothing really has happened to Vince Vaughn, but it's probably coming, and there's probably
I don't think you should
if he
tar
did
him
some-
with that brush.
look. I don't. It doesn't make me like him any less. I just think he's probably got some skeletons,
Right.
which is fine. But Vince Vaughn is going to be great because first of all, he's got that swingers wedding crashers charm.
Okay.
I'm expecting
You know
he's
he's
going to
work in a wedding sitch.
He's probably gonna take the mic off the celebrant, and he's like, buddy, take a hike. I'm gonna do it from here. That's the kind of energy I'm looking to bring.
Okay.
And he's also gonna be dancing with Bubba. You know, he's gonna be flirting with my mum, but not too much.
Yeah, in
that's
a
the kind of
charming
energy
way.
I want.
Yeah.
In a charming way.
Yeah, Fran's gonna
Yeah,
be
I
like,
might-
"Oh, Vince is so nice."
How do you know him again? I'm like, don't worry, mum.
Don't worry.
It was a dark weekend. But look, I've seen Vince Vaughn talk in interviews, and he did a show with, I think Jon Favreau did a show called Dinner for Five, which I really loved.
Yeah.
And he's got that, he's the same. You know, my impression of him is that he's the same. He's that smooth talking wedding crashers guy on and off the camera. And that's what I'm booking him as my number one groomsman
Okay.
for.
So he's what do you call him? Groom of honor. What's the
Best
opposite?
man.
Best man.
Best-
Thank you.
Groom of honor. Are you gonna do one as well?
Well, I haven't prepared any, so I am starting to actually now think in my background. But you keep going. You fill out your party, and I'll see what I can get to.
All right. I know I initially said that I want Jon Favreau or Owen Wilson, but that's off the table. I think it's going to be too much personality in the room. I want to leave a little bit of personality for myself. You know,
You don't want to be outshone.
Vince to complete. I don't want to be outshone.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw in I mean, how am I not going to be outshone? I'm picking 3 celebrities as my groomsmen.
Yeah, but their personality is what's going to keep them under control. You know, like you want people who know their role, which is to make you look good.
All right, for number 2, maybe a bit of a curveball, but just find him really exciting. Ezra Miller.
Wow, that is a curveball. They've not been the most stable in terms of showing up when they needed to. Or, you know, sticking to no gun rules or like avoiding kidnappings. So that is that is
Just to bring a bit of it.
You want something of
bit of-
that
Bit of an excitement, yeah.
you want a bit of that
want a wild
what's the
card.
deal with Kevin energy.
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What do you think that Ezra Miller is going to bring to your Bucks weekend for one, but also to the wedding?
what I'm hoping is just a touch of chaos.
Okay.
Just a touch.
Are there not safer choices for a little bit of touch of chaos?
Like Shia LaBeouf. I was thinking about him too.
Oh, I don't know which of those is better. And to be frank, I'm not sure I'd want any of them there on my wedding day.
Oh, no one wants them there.
You're bringing them. This is your. You've gone to them and you've said, "Will you be part of my party?"
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think actually Shia's probably a safer bet there, which is interesting. But yeah, lock in Ezra Miller. He seems like he's a good kid.
Okay.
Number three. You know what? I'm leaning. I don't want there to be dead air. So I'm just like, I'm not thinking about this too hard, Nick. But I think just a classic Clune Tang. I think
You want a Clooney there.
Yeah, there's a bit of a generational kind of, I guess Vince Vaughn's a bit younger than Clunes.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the same age. Who knows? Got Ezra in there. I mean, it's a wild mix. It is a wild mix.
Do you think that they'd get along? Like, I mean, I guess Vince Vaughn, he's the middle ground between Clooney and Ezra.
Well, yeah, I think Vince is like Republic. He's like wasn't he a openly a Trump supporter?
Really?
And then you've got Clooney, who's probably not. I'm guessing the furthest thing from a Trump supporter you can get. And then Ezra, who just is living in his own head. I think I'd love to see those three together.
Oh man, I mean, it would be an interesting movie. It'd be interesting. Yes. But I'm not sure that I would necessarily trust them to, like, handle the Bucks weekend. I guess Clooney would handle a Bucks weekend okay.
Okay, I just had an epiphany.
Okay.
I'm gonna swap out Ezra. That was probably stupid.
Okay.
I don't want that.
Okay.
Okay, and I've got the perfect guy who I think will slot in between Vince and Clunes perfectly.
Okay.
Richard Ayoade.
See, that's a nice pick.
That's a nice
like
pick.
That.
Don't you think you can see them all? Also, I think Richard Ayoade and Vince Vaughn did do a movie together.
I think Ayoade is going to hate it. Like, I don't strike it. He is not a person that I picture enjoying a wedding.
No. But he'd be a great celebrant, though. He'd give a great speech. It'd be hilarious.
Okay, so you're giving him the like reception speech.
I don't know what that is.
Like the best man speech. He's the one doing it, or is it still Vince?
No, I think I'm going to give it to Richard and let Vince do the schmoozing on the D floor.
Okay, so he's a bit more with the people.
And Clunes doesn't really have a role. He's just there, and the mums will come up, and he's kind of like that cool energy.
Okay.
He might dance a little bit, but he's
the guy that's like always filling your drink for you, and like making sure that you've got what you need.
Yeah, and he's like he'll buy me a really nice gift, I imagine, as well.
Well, it'll just be an espresso machine, but yeah, sure.
Well, I'll take it.
I'm gonna need a little bit of help filling out my party, I think, because I've got one strong start, and then I think I'm gonna need some suggestions here as to like how to round it out a little bit more.
Yep, I can help.
I think, look, if we're honest, I think Vince Vaughn is a good pick, but I think there is only one man that I trust to be the best man at my wedding, and that's Paul Rudd, because Paul Rudd has the charm. But he's not going to upstage you. He's going to be quietly winning. He's going to be there for you if you need to straighten your tie. And then he's going to have your back. He'll have your back. So I feel like that's the linchpin of my groomsmen party right now. And then I think I think I need a little bit more. Yeah, I think I need a little bit of energy and excitement. And I think I need maybe like an older sort of father type figure or something, to sort of like round out that category. So what do you reckon?
I'm guessing, by the way, people tell me all the time that I have Paul Rudd energy. So, that could become a reality for you, Nick.
Okay.
I'm guessing that you're, when you're speaking about like an older kind of dad energy, you're Clint Eastwood's probably too.
He's too busy talking to chairs and things there.
That could be fun. All right, so that's too much. Maybe like a
okay. Actually,
Alec Baldwin.
Here's one. I'm going to pause the dad thing for a bit because I'm not sure I don't want Alec Baldwin there either. I think number 2, very strong choice here. I want James Acaster. There because I feel like he's got a little bit of the chaos. He's got a little bit of comedy. And he's not like crazy, but he's got the sort of impulsiveness and energy that'll make a Bucks weekend fun.
No, he's not going to drink. He's definitely not going to drink too much.
No.
Like he's not going to be that kind of liability. Oh, these are good ones. I want these ones. Okay. And also Paul and James are going to get along.
Oh, they're going to get along.
They're going to get along so well. They're going to start a podcast or something.
That's my only fear. Maybe that's a little bit too much connective energy. maybe I start to become an outsider.
No, I think it's all determined by the third choice.
Oh, okay.
You need something to neutralize the energy.
Neutralize and sort of harmonize.
And
I mean, I don't think I want like a Joaquin Phoenix.
No, he's
Maybe I
gonna
want
be
someone a bit musical.
no fun.
What about a Bo Burnham?
Oh.
He might be a little bit too flat.
Flat? Like
Yeah.
sharp?
No, as in like, I'm not sure what he would bring to that mix.
I think he would definitely bring a different neutralizing energy to James and Paul.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I think he might need to. He could be a bit silly too.
he can. Do I need something a bit musical? Someone with a bit more like of a, not like a comedy actor flavor, but like something a little bit.
Like a Johnny Depp.
That's what I was missing. Johnny Depp. That's possibly that's going to raise more questions, I think.
Well, you say musician, and I gave you an answer.
Yeah. Is he known for his music?
He has a guitar.
Okay.
He definitely has a guitar.
He has a guitar is a very low standard for celebrity these days, or for musician, I suppose.
I think he might need a bit of an older energy now that I think about it.
Okay, what about Tim Oliphant? Because he's got a
Too
sort
good
of
looking.
he's
Too good looking.
too good looking, but maybe that's what I need, so that like it's a little bit like you need someone who can walk you into a bar without having to like stand in line. You know, you need someone who, like, if someone starts like rabble rousing at the paintball arcade, who has enough skills there to like really put down any opposition and get your team the win. You know?
Oh, Nick.
Okay, I'm listening.
I've got it.
Okay.
I've got the perfect thirdsman for you.
Okay.
I'm calling it a thirdsman now.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the groom of honor, number 2, and the thirdsman.
Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers. That's a great call.
He's going to fit in perfectly. He's going to facilitate.
Because he is going to be the one who can do the speech. He's not best man, but he can do the speech for me, and you know it's going to be great. It's going to have a little bit of a dig at you, but not go too far. He's witty, he's charming, he's not going to outstay his welcome. Yeah.
He's not too much, and you know he gets along famously with Paul and James.
Oh, he loves them both. It's on tape. We've seen it.
It's perfect.
Paul Rudd, best man. James Acaster there, young, youthful energy, comedy, bit of chaos, and Seth there just to like balance it all out. Mwah. What a perfect wedding.
Bon appetito.
Bon appetit.
Now, if we're getting married, you and I, we're both bringing
how
all
do our
these
groomsmen parties mesh?
What a sausage fest this is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I do take your point made at the top of this that, you know, if I was to get married, it would be an open casket. You know, men and women both welcome. So we'd have groomspeople. But yeah, for this exercise,
open casket.
Yeah, anyone's welcome.
Okay.
Yeah,
is that what that
that's
means?
how it's said.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's really it's like death at a funeral. Death at a
funeral.
Death at a wedding.
Death at a wedding. Someone's thought of that before.
Do you have an out there?
No, I don't know.
Please don't use the other thing.
Yeah.
Just like bleep all of that.
Yeah, the last 25 seconds, yeah.
And then just be like,
if I can just get you to cleanly ask, do you have an out there again? That'll be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask it again?
Yeah, just in case.
Do you reckon you got what you need there, Nick? Do you have an out? bit of
I don't know. I feel like I didn't have the same sort of emotion in that I wanted. I want to feel like you're desperate for this out.
I just want to leave. I am desperate.
Yeah, give me one more take where you like really want to make sure that we got this.
All right, Nick, are you? Do you have an out there or what? We good?
I didn't buy it. No, I imagine
that
that
Jen's energy.
The most important thing to you to know that this podcast was good. I know it doesn't come to you naturally like that, but imagine that you really cared about how this ended. And then I want to hear desperation. I want to hear enthusiasm. And I want it to sound like almost it would crush you if it didn't happen.
I'm not doing that, man. I'm not doing that. I'm not your little muse, Harvey Weinstein energy right now.
What?
Yeah, I'm not going to 12 for you.
Fucking 12, bitch.
That's what he said. 12, bitch.
Oh, God.
I have blood on my shorts. And I have no idea why. That's real. That's real.